stand. Stand. Our scripture reading this morning comes from the book of Leviticus, chapter 19. You see it up here on your screen. We're going to be reading verses 1 through 2, and then verses 9 through 18. And I invite you to follow along with me as we hear the reading of the word today. The Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the entire assembly of Israel and say to them, Behold, because I, the Lord your God, holy, and you reap the harvest of your land. Do not reap to the very edge of your field, or gather the gleanings of the harvest. Do not go over your vineyard a second time, or pick up the grapes that have fallen. Leave them for the poor and the foreigner. I am the Lord your God. Do not steal, do not lie, do not deceive one another. Do not swear falsely by my name, and so profane the name of the Lord your God. For I am the Lord. Do not defraud or rob your neighbor. Do not hold back the wages of a hired worker overnight. Do not curse the deaf or put a stumbling block in front of the blind. But fear your God. I am the Lord. Do not pervert justice. Do not show partiality to the poor or favoritism to the great. But judge your neighbor fairly. Do not go about spreading slander among your people. Do not do anything that endangers your neighbor's life. I am the Lord. Do not hate a fellow Israelite in your heart. Rebuke your neighbor frankly, so you will not share in their guilt. Do not seek revenge or bear grudge against anyone among your people, but love your neighbor as you love yourself. I am the Lord." Thanks be to God for the reading and the understanding of His holy, blessed word.
1 Peter. As obedient children, do not be conformed to the former passions which were yours in your ignorance. But like the Holy One who called you, be holy also in all your behavior. For it is written, you shall be holy, for I am holy. Holiness is my desire, to have less of me and more of thee. This is my soul's most earnest plea. Holiness is my desire. Holiness is my desire, to have less of me and more of thee. This is my soul's most earnest plea. Holiness is my desire. Oh, I want to be more like you, Lord. I long to be less like the world. I long to fill my mind with truth. Replace the lies with words of you. Oh, I long to be more like you, Lord. I long to be less like the world. I long to fill my mind with truth. Replace the lies with words of you. Holiness is my desire. Holiness is my desire, to have less of me and more of thee. This is my soul's most earnest plea. Holiness is my desire. Oh, I want to be more like you, Lord. I long to be less like the world. I long to fill my mind with truth. Replace the lies with words of you. Yes, I long to be more like you, Lord. I long to be less like the world. I long to fill my mind with truth. Replace the lies with words of you. And holiness is my desire. And holiness is my desire. Oh, may holiness be our desire. Holy, holy, holy.
I gotta tell you, I really appreciate the work of Charlie and the band and Kerry and all these guys. You know, it is tremendous how much better my preaching gets when we worship. And so I really appreciate the work you guys do on a weekly basis and the gift that you all share with us. I'll just start today's sermon with a little caveat, a disclaimer. The book of Leviticus is not anybody's idea of a good time. Sorry, folks. It is, I'll never forget. The first time in seminary, actually reading through the Bible with the help of professors and fellow students. And I powered through Genesis. Love it. And I reveled in Exodus and the power and glory of God in it. And then I got to Leviticus. And it's like I hit a wall. It was so tough to read through that book. Leviticus includes hundreds of prohibitions for what are now commonplace behaviors for you and I in our lives. No trimming your beards. No getting tattoos, you heathens. No wearing clothes made out of two kinds of fabrics. In other words, woe to you who wear golf shirts and yoga pants. Yeah, I said it. It says, no cursing your mother or father, and if you are to be dragged to the city gate where you will be stoned to death. And every teenager and child in the place set up a little straighter and got nervous, as you should. It says no eating lobster or shrimp, sorry. And the one that really bothers me, of course, is no eating bacon. That's right. I have a seminary professor who said that the prohibition over pork in Leviticus is where most of our literal readings of Scripture come to die. And I think he had something there. So what do we do? What do followers of Jesus do with the book of Leviticus? By and large, we dismiss it. It shows up twice, only twice, in our 3-year lectionary cycle of readings. And when it does, it is clear that the verses have been carved out to avoid those really sticky, nasty parts that preachers don't want to deal with. Preachers, by and large, make our bacon jokes and we move on when it comes to Leviticus. The only problem with that is that Jesus appears to love this book. He quotes from Leviticus numerous times in his teaching to his disciples. When he was asked to sum up the law and the prophets, he quotes 2 verses. One from Deuteronomy, that we should love the Lord our God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength. And then he quotes from our passage today. Quotes from Leviticus, saying that we should love our neighbors as we love ourselves. This teaching, love of God and neighbor brought together as one, it is core to Jesus' message. And that core comes from the book of Leviticus. In fact, one of the sources that I was using to study our passage this week suggests that all of Jesus Christ's life was nothing more than a commentary on the book of Leviticus and what it means to be practically holy before the Lord. The ways that our holiness is to lead us into right relationship with others. In fact, I tell you, Jesus tells us that he does not come to destroy the law. And this is the law he's referring to. He doesn't come to destroy it, but to fulfill it. To drag it into the light. To show what the law looks like when it's brought into our daily lives and hearts. So perhaps we should give today's reading more than just a cursory glance. In fact, maybe we should do that to the whole book of Leviticus. Yes, you should know. Leviticus is actually a how-to manual. It's a guide for priests in the time of the tabernacle. And it gives direction to the preachers of that day and time on how to help Israel be a holy, set-apart people. Its refrain throughout the book is what I've referenced several times already and what you heard me read in the first 2 verses. That we should be holy as God is holy. You hear again and again in our reading and throughout the book, for I am the Lord, which is a good religious because I said so from God. What does this mean? To be a holy people. Does it mean that we become perfect as God is perfect? Does it mean that you and I become sinless, just as God is without sin? Well, yes and no. You and I cannot be like God because no one is like our God. However, the book of Leviticus portrays holiness as more than just this awe-inspiring, just beyond our reach state. It portrays holiness as decisions in our lives, 100 little ones that we make every day. These choices are about how we treat the people around us, with whether or not we treat people in need fairly, with whether or not we treat the foreigner or the poor in our midst well. The 10 Commandments are cited in the book of Leviticus 19, but there's a lot added to them. Cliff notes, call them maybe. Some directions about how we're to leave those out. These commands are about forgiving people closest to us, about not hating, about not bearing grudges or seeking revenge for wrongs that are committed against us. They're about taking care of the most vulnerable in our midst and about living in and by the truth of God in our everyday lives. Hear me. This passage is a lot more than a best of the commands of God. It's a manual on living in such a way that we protect the sanctity of life, that we offer dignity to all men, to all women, from our biggest enemies to the guy who works as our plumber or the guy who works picking up our trash every week. You see, Israel had been set free from slavery. That truth is foundational for who they are and who they were going to be. They had a hard time, though, leaving behind the customs of the old world that they had known. They had a hard time not doing to others as was done to them, you could say. Again and again, the prophets, we hear God's people scolded to not oppress or put down the people around them, because they were set free to be more than just the next in a long line of oppressors. In the same way, God's people had a way of taking on the practices of the lands that they visited. This assimilation is normal for us. It's a natural part of life. But God tells them in a chorus, repeatedly, not to be like the people around them, that they are to be different, set apart for His life, for His desire. He wants them to be a people whose lives bear witness to the holiness of their God. Church, please understand, Leviticus was written to us to stop our backsliding. It was written as a reminder that we are to be a people who resemble our God in every way. Moreover, our holiness is not something that we take on and take off like our nicest dress clothes before we go to church. It is to be our daily attire, a part of who we are. I can't pick up my pursuit of God's ways one day, or even for a few moments set it down. It becomes who we are, and that is God's desire. But it's His desire that my holiness should resemble His, and that holiness should permeate every interaction that I have, every conversation I'm a part of, every situation that I face on a day-to-day basis. God's desire is that I would change and become like Him. William Willimon tells a story of preaching one Sunday. He preached on a text where Jesus commands us to love our enemies. He's shaking hands at the door at the end of the sermon. Thought it was a good one, pretty harmless. And this lady comes to the door, and he'd seen her in church most weeks, but he didn't really know her well. And she arrives at the door waiting her turn, and when she gets there, it's clear she's got something to say. And she begins to accost him. She says, "Do you mean to tell me that Jesus wants me to forgive my abusive husband, who made my life a living hell for 10 years, until I finally got up the nerve to leave it. Well, he began to stumble all over himself, immediately moving into defensive mode. Well, I've only got 20 minutes to preach, and 20 minutes is not near long enough to qualify every situation. Yeah, spousal abuse is a horrible thing. I'm against it, but the record shows. And this is just the kind of thing that Jesus says sometimes. He's weird that way. He did say that we were supposed to forgive 70 times 70. That's a lot of forgiveness. Well, he did say that we're supposed to love our enemies. And I can't think of a worse enemy for you than your ex-husband, is what he did. And she then drew herself up to her full height, took a deep breath, and said, "Good. Just making sure. Just making sure." What does it mean for you and I to be holy? I think it's a matter of investment, church. It's a matter of orientation, of what our lives are gathered around. I used to think that a Christian was just somebody who believed that Jesus was very important. I'm coming to believe something different. I'm coming to believe that a Christian is someone who has nothing else but Jesus. Because it's His presence in my life that makes me a decent husband and father and on my bed-of-days preacher. It is experiencing His love that makes me want to love the people around me, no matter how honoring, better than they deserve. A Christian believes that God has so filled their life that there is room for little else. There is no dark corner of sin that God's light cannot illuminate. There is no part of my life that is hands off to Jesus. There is no region of our existence that our God cannot and will not control and command. And its holiness is not a matter of just me investing my whole life in Jesus. It's coming to understand that Christ is fully invested and concerned about every area of my life. Being holy unto the Lord means that every flower, every book, every bird, every honorary person I come across bears within them the truth of God in Jesus Christ. Colossians 3 says it this way: "For Christ is all, and Christ is in all." John Shea, a priest from Chicago, reminisces about his first experience of the Holy Spirit. He was serving as an altar boy, just 13 years old, in his parish there in Chicago. And it was his job as altar boy, he and another young man who were there in the sanctuary, to pray and meditate for 30 minutes. And the Father told him to meditate on the host, on Holy Communion. Well, sure enough, they began to do so, but you need to understand, 30 minutes. 30 minutes for a 13-year-old is an eternity. And it sure was for John. He began to peek at his watch not long into his time that he was supposed to be praying. He began to let his eyes wander around the sanctuary and get good and distracted. And then his eyes fell on the bread. It fell on the host. The little container that it sat on the altar table. And he says that he'd give all the money he had as a bet for this. But that he heard the communion host speak. And this is what it said: "I'm more than just a piece of bread, you know." Well, it scared him. He wasn't accustomed to hearing voices. So he looked over at the other communion steward to see if that young man had been disturbed as well. And he saw that his head was bowed. He was praying like he was supposed to be. He clearly had not heard a thing. It was a fat kid. Kid who was made fun of a lot in school. He had big ears, and so everybody called him Dumbo, and not lovingly. He was tortured in school. And John says, as the kid's head was bowed in prayer, he heard him speak, though his mouth didn't move. The young man said, I'm more than just a fat kid with floppy ears, you know. John stumbled out of the sanctuary when his 30 minutes were up. It was dark now, and he had a short walk home, and he immediately began to move to the corner where there was an elderly lady, all hunched over her walker, getting ready to cross the street. She gave him an appraising look like he might be a hoodlum coming after her. And without moving her mouth, he said he heard her speak to him. She said, I'm more than just an old widow, you know. Hoping for relief, he looked up at the sky, just in time to see lightning dash across it. The thunder began to roll, and in the thunder's voice, he heard God say, I'm more than just an empty sky, you know. He said the words of Psalm 19 began to echo in his ears. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day, they pour forth speech. Night after night, they reveal their knowledge. They have no speech. They use no words. No sound is heard from them. But their voice goes forth into all the earth. Church, you want to know what holiness is? You want to know what God wants for our lives? He wants all of our lives to be fixed on Him. He wants for our hearts to burn for Him like His burns for ours with a consuming fire. He wants for us to see Him in every face that we see. He wants for us to hear His voice when the thunder rolls and to pursue His presence like we pursue nothing else in our lives. Because we are a people who are convinced that nothing can satisfy like our Jesus can. What does our God want from us? He wants for us to be holy. He wants all of us. And God, the Prince of Eternity, the Judge of the living and the dead, is prepared to settle for nothing less. Lord, help us. Help us to be holy, as you are holy. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.